So today I wanted to talk about my top 10 books that I read in 2016. I did not read a ton of books in 2016. I only read 34 books, which is the least amount of books that I read in a year since I started my channel. But that's alright. I had a lot of stuff going on in 2016 and I was kind of in a reading slump, I felt like almost the entire year. But it's okay, we started a new year. I still read some amazing books last year. I did rank these in order from 1 to 10, but it's not a definite order. It was very, very hard to put one book above the other because I loved all of these books so much, and it was hard to say if I liked one more than the other. So I did, like I said, put them in kind of an order, but it's not set in stone. They could definitely be rearranged. Also, I don't have any of these books with me. If you watched my last video, you know kind of the whole ordeal with me moving back and forth from home to school, and so I don't have any of the physical books with me, so I will just insert pictures of the covers. Sorry, I know that's not as fun as having the actual books, but it's okay. Gets the point across. Yeah, let's just go ahead and jump into it. Number 10, I chose The Darkest Corners by Kara Thomas. This is a YA mystery thriller book, and there was a little point in 2016 where I was like reading these kinds of books like back to back, and I really enjoyed this one. It kept me up late reading. Whenever I finished it, my mind was racing. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I even like tweeted the author and was like, oh my gosh, what did you just do to me? It's one of those that has a lot of twists and turns, and the ending is pretty unexpected, and it's just a really fast, entertaining book. I do have a full review on it, and with any of the books that I talk about that I have reviews on, I will link them below if you want to know more about the summaries of the books, because I'm not going to get into every summary of every book, but I will tell you kind of the gist of each book. But yeah, if you love mystery books, that is a great one. Number 9, I chose Torn by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the sequel to Wicked. It's a new adult kind of urban fantasy series. I really loved Wicked, and I loved Torn as well, but I didn't like it as much as Wicked. It just didn't pull me in like Wicked did. I don't know. These are set in New Orleans, which is really cool. I love reading books that are set in my home state. New Orleans is kind of just a magical city in itself, so reading kind of urban fantasy set in New Orleans is just really fun. Characters in this series are great, and it is really heavy on the romance, and so that was kind of one of my problems with this sequel, is that I didn't totally love the romance as much as I did in the first book. But it got better towards the end, and the ending of this book was crazy, so I can't wait for the next one. Number 8, I chose False Hearts by Laura Lamb. This is another kind of mystery thriller read, but it's more on the sci-fi side. It's set in the future, and it has talks about a lot of new like technological advances, and it follows these two main characters that were conjoined twins at one time but were separated, kind of living their own lives now. But one night one of the twins comes home and she has been involved in something very bad, and we have to kind of figure out what happened, why she did what she did, and what's going on. There's a lot more to this book. The twins actually weren't born in the city that they're in. I believe it's set in San Francisco, like a futuristic San Francisco. They were actually born in kind of like a cult and escaped the cult to move to San Francisco. It's a pretty crazy journey. I loved that this was like a book that mixed a lot of genres together. It was mystery, but also sci-fi, but also kind of dystopian almost in a way, and it also has a lot of diversity in it, and so that I appreciated very much. Number 7, I chose Arcana Rising by Kresley Cole. This is the 4th book in the Arcana Chronicles series. The first book is Poison Princess. I've talked about this series so much. It's one of my favorites. It's always the series that I pick for like an underhyped book. I feel like more people are kind of talking about it now. It's kind of getting out there a little bit more. I just think this series is so great and fun. It's kind of post-apocalyptic, but it also deals with the Arcana like tarot cards. It's really cool, and it's, even though it kind of mixes together some things that might sound like other books, for example, it's kind of Hunger Games-ish, but definitely has its own spin and its own twist on things. I think a lot of people are turned off of this book because there is a pretty big love triangle. I can understand that, but I think the love triangle is done really, really well. So if you're kind of open to love triangles, I would highly recommend this series, but I will warn you, it's very addictive. And the next book comes out hopefully spring of this year. Cannot wait for it because Arcana Rising was just total insanity. Have no idea how this series is going to end. I have some theories that I've been talking to people about, but I really don't know what Kresley Cole has up her sleeve, and I can't wait to find out. Number 6, I chose I'll Meet You There by Heather Demetrios. This is a YA contemporary. I would say, you know, it has a romance, but that's not like the only focus of the story. I read this earlier in the year, but it just really, really like ripped out my heart but put it back together in a good way. It was a very emotional read, but super good. I loved the characters and the relationship that developed. This book just discusses a bunch of different themes. There's just a lot to it, and I think each kind of theme and layer was developed really well, and I don't know, I just fell in love with it, fell in love with the characters. Number 5, I chose Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I can't believe it took me so long to read this book, but I'm so glad I finally did. It was amazing and wonderful, and I really, really loved it and really connected to it. It's a book that's best to go into without knowing too much and without any expectations. The advice I received was just to go into it not expecting anything, not thinking about the hype, not thinking about how much everyone loves it, because this book is a journey for the characters, but I think also for the reader. It's written in an interesting way, and that it's written very simply. When you're reading it, it's kind of easy to read and fast to read, and it might not seem like, if you're looking at the surface, it might not seem like such a deep and important story, but the more you think about it and the more you read on, you realize that there is just so many layers to this story and to these characters. There's, again, a lot of themes, and I just think it's so, so beautiful. And probably my favorite part of this book are the characters' parents. There's a very strong family and parental dynamic in this story, which I appreciate because I feel like we don't really get enough of that in YA. And so I loved that was a very, very big part of this story, and I just loved the parents. They were great. It just made me feel, and it made me think. It was just a really emotional read that I strongly connected to. Number 4, I chose The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Ahdieh. This is the sequel to The Wrath and the Dawn, and also the conclusion to the duology. Loved it. I'm sure you've all heard of The Wrath and the Dawn. It's a retelling of Arabian Nights or 1001 Nights. I just love this series so, so much. I love the romance and the characters and the world and the magic, and I can't. I get so excited when I think about this series, and I'm so sad that it's over, but I really liked this last book. Some of it was a little bit slow, and it wasn't as fast-paced to me as the first one, but it was still just so good, and so many crazy things happen, and I literally at one point kind of like threw the book across the room because I could not believe what happened. I loved that it was kind of unexpected and there were a lot of twists and turns. Number 3, I chose Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. I really loved getting back into Cassandra Clare's world. It was so great to just be back in her writing, and it was something that I didn't even realize I had missed until I started reading this book. It just brought back so many memories and feelings of reading the Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices. So this to me was a really great start off to the Dark Artifices. I had a few problems with it. Mostly like the romances were kind of weird. Just kind of unsure about something that happened at the very end. I just don't really know what direction Cassandra Clare is like trying to go in with this. So I can't wait to read Lord of Shadows, the next book, to see what happens. I mean, I still really, really enjoyed it and loved the book. Number 2, Cress by Marissa Meyer. As I said in my last video, I just finished it and I loved it so much. Loved it so much. I can't even deal with my love for that book and these characters. I loved how they kind of had their individual storylines in this book, but then they're also kind of all together, and it was so fun. I loved getting to know Cress, and yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but the romances, I love it. I love it. I love it so much. But yeah, I hope to do kind of a talk discussion on that book because I haven't done one yet. Yeah, I can't wait to finish the series. And my number one choice for my reads of 2016 is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. This book just took me by surprise. I did not expect to love it as much as I did. I love it for so many reasons. I would highly recommend checking out my review of this book if you haven't yet, because I feel like I kind of expressed my thoughts pretty well in that. So it's just a very beautiful story, and even though it's fiction, it's kind of based around an actual, true historical event that I actually had no idea even existed. So it like taught me something about history, which I thought was really neat. You can tell that the author really truly did her research, and the book just felt very authentic. It follows, 4 different perspectives, and I loved getting to know these characters individually, but then also seeing their storylines come together. I don't know what else to say about this book. It was amazing. I loved it for a lot of different reasons. Definitely go check out my review if you want to know more about it. So those are my favorite books that I read last year. I am looking forward to 2017 and all the great books that I'm going to read. I decided to write a blog post to talk about my highly anticipated reads of 2017 because I revamped my blog and kind of redesigned it a little bit. So I wanted to do a blog post, and I just thought that might be a good post to start off with since I haven't posted on my blog in a really long time. That blog post might already be up, and if it is, I'll link it below. Alright, that is all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and tell me below what your favorite books of 2016 were. Also, your thoughts on any of the books I mentioned if you've read them as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!